Our next presentation is actually a somewhat large one. It's going to be presented by two students, actually. Joseph Longoria and Anna Kaiser will be presenting the red fox, the wild pig, and the Kemp Ridley turtle. So, it's all yours, guys.
Well, today we'll be talking about how two invasive species, the red fox and the feral pig, how they were introduced to Texas, how they were distributed, the impact they have on the ecosystems, and how we can control or eliminate these. Well, we'd like to start off with the Vulpes vulpes, or as some of y'all know it as the red fox. Had it not been for some early pioneers in their pack of well-trained hunting hounds, foxes might never have found its way to Texas. Not a native species, it was imported to provide sport and training for foxhounds. The entire red fox population of central Texas probably descended around for about 40 foxes that were released between 1890 and 1895 near Waco. Offsprings from these plus an additional 60 imports soon spread into the surrounding counties. According to a short-term item published in a 1959 issue of the Texas Game and Fish magazine, 38 red foxes were trapped that year and shipped to East Texas to be housed in artificial dens to train running hounds. Now, the distribution. Red foxes have a large geographic distribution in North America, ranging over a significant portion of the continent from the south ice sheet to the north. In North America, introduced foxes have negative impacts on many ground nesting birds such as ducks and grouse. European red foxes also have negatively impacted on smaller canines such as the endangered San Joaquin kid fox and other subspecies of the native red fox. European red foxes also have threats on livestock such as lambs, poultry, and other animals. The red fox disturbs and destroys 1 to 9 nests a year from the sea turtles. Ways we could control or eliminate these is by hunting, trapping, gassing them out, or using other toxic. Hunting is an important way to control or eliminate these red foxes. Hunting for red foxes starts November 3rd all the way to February 23rd, with no bag limit. But you do need a license. And now Anna Kaiser will talk to you about the feral hog.
Another exotic species that has invaded Texas is Suscrofa, or the feral hog. Domestic hogs were originally brought to Texas by Spanish explorers over 300 years ago. They were an important source of cured meat and lard for settlers. Hogs that escaped or were released adapted readily to the wild and prospered in a variety of habitats. Russian boars, or European wild hogs, were also imported and introduced to Texas by ranchers in the 1930s for sport hunting. The larger and more aggressive hogs escaped game ranches and bred with already existing populations of feral hogs. A lack of natural predators, flexible omnivorous diets, and the ability to adapt to various habitats, and high reproductive rates, allowed this non-native species to proliferate across the region. In fact, a healthy female, called a sow, will breed when she is 6 months old and will continue to breed every 6 months, producing 4 to 14 piglets each litter. East, South, and Central Texas are the areas where the population density is the highest, and populations are growing at alarming rates. There are currently approximately 2.5 million feral hogs residing in Texas, and according to scientists at Texas A&M University, the population will triple in the next 5 years if left unchecked. As you can see on these distribution maps, just in the past 20 years, feral hog populations have proliferated across Texas and other parts of the United States. Next slide. Feral hogs have a variety of impacts on ecosystems across Texas. They are aggressive and compete with indigenous wildlife for food, water, and space. They are voracious feeders and have a large home range of 10 miles, so that they are a significant competition to native species. Sus scrofa are also opportunistic feeders and will prey on a wide variety of native wildlife, threatening their survival. A few examples of these are ground-nesting birds, rabbits, and young fawns. Feral hogs also kill small livestock such as goats, calves, and turkeys. Feral hogs strip the bark from trees and dig out insects, and alter and destroy habitats with their rooting, which has various negative impacts on the environment. Rooting by pigs disturbs natural plant communities by destroying native species. The soil is uplifted with this rooting behavior, causing it to dry in the heat of the summer. Rooting behavior also affects the habitat of ground-dwelling animals such as amphibians, reptiles, mammals, and ground-nesting birds. Erosion increased by feral hog activity can wash into streams and creeks, decreasing water quality. Poor water quality has a negative impact on many aquatic animals. Feral hogs are reservoirs for various parasites and diseases, such as brucellosis and pseudorabies, that can potentially spread to other native animals, to livestock, and to people. Sus scrofa also damage human facilities, roads, fences, tame pastures, and agricultural lands. In Texas alone, feral pigs cause $400 million in damages annually. Because feral pigs have a high rate of reproduction and because of their adaptability, many consider eradication impossible. The goal is to control them effectively. Successful control of this species is important to ensure the protection of native species and human property. Various methods are used to control feral pig populations. They are unprotected, non-game animals, so they can be hunted throughout the year without a bag limit, though a hunting license is required. They are also caught in large cage traps. Dogs are sometimes used to help hunters catch feral pigs. Bay dogs harass and harry the boar, keeping it in one place, or at bay, and bark loudly to alert the hunter. Catch dogs grip the boar with their jaws, typically seizing the base of the boar's ear. Once they have the boar, they will hold it down by the ear until the hunter arrives. One interesting method that is used is a Judas pig. Because pigs are social animals, they will look for another group of pigs to hang out with after their herd is killed. A Judas pig is fitted with a radio collar or a microchip and set free. This allows hunters to find a new herd of pigs to destroy later. Shooting feral hogs from helicopters is the most effective way to eradicate them, but unless efforts are increased, feral hogs will continue to plague Texas, as well as other areas of the United States and the world. Feral hog and the red fox not only have a huge impact on terrestrial ecosystems, they also have an impact on endangered marine species. Lepidochelys kempii, the Kemp's Ridley sea turtle, is an example of this. These two invasive species are among the most significant predators of the Kemp's Ridley sea turtle. Sea turtles have the ability to reproduce abundantly, laying hundreds of eggs in one nesting season. But even under natural conditions, relatively few young turtles survive their first year of life. Foxes kill hatchlings as they make their way from the nest to the sea, as do feral hogs. Feral hogs will actually crush and consume small turtles, and to larger turtles, they will tear off the neck, legs, and head, leaving partially damaged or consumed shells on the beach. Feral hogs and red foxes will also dig up turtle nests and consume sea turtle eggs. Conservation efforts have significantly reduced the effects of predation, but with as few as 1 in 10,000 eggs reaching adulthood, the destruction of only a few nests can have devastating effects on any sea turtle population. Looking at this map, you can see the current distribution of the Kemp's Ridley. These are the areas where the Kemp's Ridley is found, shaded in purple. Kemp's Ridleys nest in massive groups called arribadas on the beaches of the Gulf Coast, mainly during daylight hours between May and July. Arribadas consist of hundreds to thousands of females emerging from the ocean together to lay their eggs at the same nesting beach each year. Decades ago, before humans devastated their populations, a single arribada was estimated to number up to 40,000 Kemp's Ridleys. But in the 1980s, the arribada size declined to as few as 200 sea turtles or less. Conservation efforts have helped this turtle, though. After reaching a low of only 702 nests worldwide in 1985, About 21,797 nests were found worldwide during 2012. This table documents the Kemp's Ridley nests on Texas coast since 1996. In 17 years, the number of nests found on the Texas coast alone increased from only 6 nests to 209 nests. Though the Kemp's Ridley went almost extinct, successful conservation efforts are increasing hope for the survival of this beautiful species.
The Kemp's Ridley is the most endangered species of sea turtle. Kemp's Ridley's population underwent a devastating decline in the mid-1900s, primarily due to overharvest of eggs and also juveniles and adults due to commercial fishing. The Kemp's Ridley face threats on both nesting beaches and marine ecosystems. The greatest cause of decline and the continuing primary threat to Kemp's Ridley is incidental capture and fishing gear, primarily shrimp trawls, gill nets, long lines, traps, and pots, and so forth. Since early 2010, 1,519 sea turtles were found stranded or dead, and about 85% of them were the Kemp's Ridley sea turtle. Federal scientists say most of the turtles died due to drowning or most likely due to the nets. On March 5th, 2010, the BP oil rig had blown up, causing oil to spread over a wide range of the marine ecosystem, killing many marine species. Unfortunately, the Kemp's Ridley sea turtle species got hit the hardest by the spill, being the most endangered sea turtle in the world, the one that could least afford to suffer such losses. Of the 600 turtles found dead, 500 were the Kemp's Ridley. Heavy predation and nest destruction by human activity and a variety of predators have significantly. They feed on jellyfish, other fish, mollusks, and various other types of fish. As you can see here, these are plastic bottles. The diamond cuts into them weren't made by humans or anything, but by the turtles. When they're floating in the ocean, going, they want a quick snack, so we can go pick with one of their favorite foods, the jellyfish, for instance. As these plastic bottles float into the ocean, the sun hits them at a perfect angle, which makes the sea turtles think of it as a jellyfish. So what do? They go up and eat it. And after days and days, they stop eating because they can't digest these plastics, and causing them to die from starvation. Conservation efforts. Well, from 1978 to 1988, an international multi-agency project was undertaken to increase the nesting by Kemp's Ridley sea turtles at Padre Island National Seashore. All of this was based on the imprinting theory, which is thought that sea turtles imprint on their natal beaches just like salmon imprint on the natal streams. The seashore of secondary nesting colony from the indigenous species as a safeguard against extinction. Overall, 22,507 eggs were collected in Rancho Nuevo, packed in Padre Island sand, and transported to the national seashore, where they were then hatched in controlled conditions. The resulting hatchlings are released on the beach and are able to go all the way to the surf, and they will come back. The scientists and biologists will go and get them with the aquarium dip nets and bring them back. It was hoped that the exposure to Padre Island sand and surf would imprint the turtles to the national seashore so that when they grow up, they could come back and nest more on the beaches. Other ways South Padre helped to save the sea turtles are by the incubations on the national seashore. And they put them in curls, which is a large screen, as you can see here. They put them there so other predators like the ghost crab, the red fox, the feral hog wouldn't get to them. By eliminating the invasive species, the Kemp's Ridley sea turtle will help benefit its environment. The sea turtles are a cornerstone of healthy ocean and play a critical part in both marine and terrestrial environments. Sea turtles play an important role in the nutrient cycle on land, particularly during the nesting season, by moving organic compounds from foraging grounds, where then they feed in the ocean, to nutrient-poor coastal habitats near nesting beaches. This transport supports the growth of plants and animals in the coastal habitats. Now today we talked about how the red fox and the feral hog, how they were introduced, how both of them were introduced by sport, and how they affected their ecosystems, and how they also affected the Kemp's Ridley. And with the Kemp's Ridley, we talked about its range and the causes for its endangerment. Well, now we'll be open to questions. Yes?
As a vegetarian, it seems kind of graphic, or not quite graphic, but kind of cruel to just have the only solution be to hunt these animals down to get rid of them. Is there any other way to decrease their population other than hunting and slaughtering them?
Well, they have they catch them in traps, and they'll just release them back to where they were, or where they originated.
And they do that for both foxes and hogs?
I know for foxes they do, but for the feral hogs, predominantly they'll just kill them off.
We can add one cute fun thing to that.
Ma'am?
In terms of feral hogs, I don't know if the price is still valid or not, but in 2005, when we were becoming master naturalists and they were training us on the Kemp's Ridley in particular, you could literally export feral hog meat to Germany, and it was getting sold for $8 a pound. $18 a pound, as much as they could get over there to Germany.
But it has to be tested for the pseudomonas, brucellosis. It has to be tested. Certified, injected, oxalated.
They are also now, I don't remember that you mentioned this, they're also now offering I think it's a state bounty, is it correct?
Who's that working in bounds?
Well, in essence,
There's
they,
local areas in
somewhere, at least around here, because we've seen it published several times in newspapers, etc., but there is a payment for any hunters who kill feral hog and get it to where they have to take it to prove that they did it. They're paid for it, so.
Speaking of animal selection, they have done the shooting out on Neighbor Island. 3 years ago, they shot from the air during the day, and they killed somewhere in the range of 800. The next year, they shot again, and they had about 300 and something. The third year, they shot for the third time, and they're roughly on about 125. What they have done is they have bred hogs now that don't move around during the day because they're hard to see from the air. They don't come at night. So the smart hogs, what we've done is we've bred a smart hog, the only ones that are out at night.
Yes.
In your research, just curious if you guys noticed or found information on these wild hogs were introduced many years ago. So now it seems like they are just covering the United States at a very rapid rate. Is there any explanation? I mean, why have they all of a sudden started moving up and spreading out into the States?
Well, I haven't really come across anything about that, but I can get back to you on it if you'd like.
Oh yes, I'll see you on Wednesday.
I have a question for, on that chart you had with the Ridley sea turtle, what did they do between 2000, I believe it was 2000 and 2001, or it was 2000 and 2002, to increase the numbers? Was there something they did right there from 2001 to 2002? Was there something they actually did right there the year before that increased those numbers like that, or was that just natural?
Well, pretty much like with South Padre, they got these eggs. They protected them and kept on. So when they imprinted them on the beaches, So after they released them, they'd come back, and there'll just be even more.
Okay, so that was after their effort time?
Yes.
Okay.
It takes roughly 10 years for a female to become breeder. They have a long time before they breed. So if you want to look for something that they did in 2000, don't look there. Look back about 1990 or 1990. Plus, it was a lot more intense. People started patrolling the beaches a lot. It's an effect. First, Kemp Ridley was on the nest was only discovered on Longoria Island in 2005. And they patrolled the island for 3 years before they were found, before it was ever found.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you know how they navigate back to their origins, like Senator, by stars or
To be honest, I'm not sure about that, but I can get your information and I will email you. Yes, right.
In regards to the nests, is there any kind of distinguishatory factors or conditions that are looked for nest sites, or something that somebody can distinguish, like, hey, that is a Kempley's nest site, we should notify? Do they have anything like that set up?
Well, they actually do. Her name is Donna, but I'm not sure of her last name. She works there at the. Yes.
Dr. Donna,
Yes.
she's still in.
She has what they call the Ridley Ranger. It's a little terrier. It was trained to find Kemp's Ridley nest. One time they were looking in 2007, I believe. They were looking for 5 hours for Kemp's Ridley nest, and all of a sudden they just wanted to get the dog in, and within minutes it found nothing but Kemp's Ridley nest.
Is the dog named Ridley?
Yes, Ridley Ranger. He actually has a Facebook. I mean, he has a ton of friends.
By now, maybe you figured out everything with me is about this and politics. If you travel to Caribbean countries where they don't necessarily have governmental funding for conservation efforts, and you visit turtle farms where they raise turtles, they will lobby, especially Americans, really, really hard because they don't like our ban on turtle parts. Because they cull certain numbers of the turtles before they release them in order to fund their programs. I don't necessarily approve that, but this is a little bit of something that happens elsewhere. So, raising turtles.
Well, if that was all the questions, I'd like to thank you all and thank Z.
Maybe one more statistic. There was on YouTube several years back, I have no idea if it's still there. He says it's still there. There was a set of old.
It's 8-millimeter film. It's the Arabada she was talking about. There were 40,000 turtles nested on the beach.
And they're
At one
stacked.
day, and now it dwindles. It had dwindled for a while after that.
The turtles are actually stacking themselves on top of each other because there's not room for all of them on that beach. And people are walking on top of them. You know, it wasn't go take a walk down there type thing. It was people who were working with them, you know, whatever. And it's an amazing thing. If you get a chance, you might want to take a look at it. It'll help nail in your head forever some of the kinds of things that we're doing. Okay? Not us doing it positively, but what we as mankind